Hello, do you love or hate Tesla? Well, if I told you I was selling my Tesla, you'd probably listen a lot longer and I would get about 10,000 views, especially if my thumbnail was or something like that with my thumbs down. But if I then told you that I actually love my Tesla, I'd get a lot fewer views because what's the point of watching someone love their car?
Yes, it's really nice.
But what if I tell you some of the good things about owning a Tesla and some of the not very good? Hello, I'm Nigel. Hope you can like and subscribe. Thanks for joining today. That's fantastic. And please leave a comment below. So I'm asking today, the question is, do you love or hate Tesla? I'm also going to be talking today about depreciation of the car, insurance and the tyre wear. And what do you think in general about electric vehicles? Now, I've had this Tesla for 2 years and I've been driving gas for 50 years. So if anyone should be stuck in the past, it's me. So the first question is, do you own a Tesla? Do you own an EV? Are you thinking about buying an EV? Or are you never ever going to have an EV?
These are terrible.
Because they're the four main categories that people fall into. Now, YouTube is full of people telling you not to buy an EV. The majority of cars they're driving are not Teslas. Often they're much more expensive. And they tell you, don't buy an electric vehicle. But they don't tell you not to buy the electric vehicle that they've bought, because it's not a Tesla. I've run into a couple of people on the first day of owning Audis. I've been at the Tesla supercharger. These people have been struggling. They've asked for help. At another charging network, I've not been able to help them. And they paid twice the price for their Audis as my Tesla. So I haven't been able to help. And I kind of think, well, why spend twice as much for a really nice looking car? I wouldn't say it's any better than the Tesla, clearly not. If they bought a Tesla, they wouldn't have the people who tell you not to buy one. If they bought a Tesla, they wouldn't have these problems. They wouldn't be getting 100,000 views on YouTube. So if you're thinking of buying an electric vehicle, I hope I can maybe help you. If you've already got a Tesla or another electric vehicle, you might want to compare notes. So there is a lot of misinformation. And I'd just give you my own experience owning a Tesla Model 3. Certainly the dealerships don't want anyone to have an EV because they know that they will be out of business because it doesn't need the servicing and repairs and all those things. You're never going to read anything positive about Tesla in the magazines or newspapers, because Tesla don't advertise with newspapers and magazines. I read that, that was probably a lie. I read that GM spend $1 billion a year on advertising. So imagine the good press they're going to get, or relative to Tesla, who spend zero. And I think even having said that, generally speaking, most people would agree that Tesla are so far ahead of GM, Ford and even Mercedes, Volkswagen. Everyone is so far behind. They know that Tesla are the brand leader and they just want to catch them. With all this money going into the advertising, then it's amazing that Tesla get any good news at all or any good press. But they do, because most of it comes from the owners, people like me that enjoy the Tesla and get fed up of hearing all these negative news stories about them. And I'm not paid by Tesla, you know, they don't, if they wanted to, fine. To be honest, if VW come along and said, yeah, make videos about Volkswagens and we'll pay you 10 grand a week, would I do it? I don't know if I would, I don't know. But anyway, I'll wait for the call, see what happens, okay. So anyway, folks, insurance, I get lots of messages from people telling me about how my insurance is almost unaffordable. My insurance went up this last year, not a lot, a little bit, and but of course the car I had before this was an Audi A3, which did 0 to 60 in 14 seconds, maybe 13 on a good day. This Tesla does 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds. It's way better. It's a much, much better and more expensive car. And so you've got to compare like with like. I had a great comment today from Tom. He says, and I do agree with him, remember that insurance is basically the stupidity of the driver times the performance of the car, the dodginess of the parking place. If you have bought a car that should be compared with a BMW M Series 3 or Merc with regard to its performance, which would be any Tesla, because even the basic is really fast. If you were to do the analysis based on like-for-like cars, your insurance will not have gone up. That's great, and I think that sums it up. And mine hasn't. Mine's hardly gone up at all. It's a great comment. And a lot of people will say that my insurance will go up, as if they're willing it to go up, because they've read insurance is unaffordable, because an 18-year-old who had some driving offences, no claims, is paying $3,000 a year. Well, that's not me. I've got no claims. I build it up and I drive sensibly. So the 10-foot stand-up paddleboard fits in okay. It's not a hatchback, it's the boot with the folded down. That's okay maybe on a short journey. Some people might disagree. Less than a mile, a longer journey, I would deflate it. But not far from the beach here, and the roads are very quiet. However, in Europe, obviously, we're more used to the hatchbacks, and when the Tesla Model 2 comes out, smaller car, I may have to deflate this a little bit to get it in, but I think that's just what we want, a smaller car. Model 2 would be much better, that's if they call it that. Elon Musk says they're not going to. Model 3 is a big car in the UK. Europe, it's not in America, it's a medium small car. But that, if anything, is a complaint that I do have about Tesla. Nothing is actually perfect. I do love the idea of V2G, where you use the EV battery to charge at night when electricity is very cheap. So you store up your car's battery in the early hours of the morning and sell it back to the electricity company between 4 and 7 in the evening when it's very expensive, and then hence make a profit. If you're doing that at the moment, please leave something in the comment below. That would be brilliant. But they are estimating that potentially you could earn $12,000 a year from this process by using your battery, which is after all a very expensive part of your car. Looking forward to it when it comes. I had a comment earlier on today about someone referring to my last video when I was comparing prices of gas to electricity charging, and someone said, what about your tyres, wear and tear on tyres, have you factored that in? Well, it's no different to any other car. I don't drive the plaid model, and I don't demonstrate to my friends half a dozen times a day how fast it is doing 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, so that really doesn't apply. The power's there if I need it. Occasionally you do, maybe joining a motorway, something's very busy. Let's say you misjudge pulling out at a junction, you see the car behind is going a lot faster than you thought, and you can get out of his way. It's really very good. So it appears that every magazine, newspaper has a constant stream of stories coming out, which are being answered by the owners. They say insurance has gone up, and owners say, well, not really, it hasn't gone up. It's a more expensive car. It hasn't gone up in proportion any more than my home insurance. And they say, oh, EVs are catching on fire, when they're not. The cars that are catching on fire are hybrids or internal combustion. Electric cars are way less likely to catch on fire. So all these questions are being answered by people. And of course, now we've got depreciation. Well, what a terrible thing depreciation is. And I can tell you, in the first 9 months of owning my Tesla Model 3, the price went up. Even at We Buy Any Car would pay more than I paid for it. And the reason was because Tesla were putting the prices up. So my car was a greater value. Now, if you bought at the peak, and some people did, they've got the worst depreciation. Sorry for you folks. I wouldn't have bought at that price, definitely not. I could see that at the time I bought, the few months before, they had put the price up a little. So I thought, we've got to do this if we're going to do it. I looked at second-hand prices, but they weren't much cheaper, only a couple of thousand cheaper for a 2-year-old Tesla Model 3. Now you can get them at 20,000. And if I was buying now, and this comes on to the depreciation question is, what about depreciation? It's terrible. It is, it's terrible. Then don't buy a new one. That's the answer. I did, can't do anything about that. The depreciation only comes into play if I sell the thing. Only new car I've ever had in my life, so I've had a lifetime of saving depreciation. I don't plan to sell it now. It was always meant to be my last car, and that's exactly what it is. Now, if you're only going to run a car for 3 years, then sure, you've got depreciation, but all cars have got depreciation. Yeah, would love the Model 2, but I think I'll probably wait till that's been out a few years and buy a used one. GPS is quite excellent, you know, it really is excellent. It's a big plus over a non-Tesla, although other companies are improving. It's very comfortable, it's very easy to drive, but probably either number one or number two reason to buy a Tesla is the supercharging network is so good. So you know where your next supercharger is if you're going on a long road trip. I mean, for the average person, this doesn't matter because you're 30, 40 miles a day to the office, back from home, charging or charging somewhere locally. It just doesn't matter. But if you're going on a long road trip, as we have done to Portugal, Scotland, Spain, knowing where the supercharger is exactly is so important. I can't tell you what the sat-nav is like in a Hyundai or a Renault, Volkswagen. I don't know. I only know about the Tesla, and it's bloody good. And of course, supercharging in the US, Australia, Canada, New Zealand is so easy. And of course, charging at home on a 3-pin plug was really nothing easier, and way cheaper than diesel, and something that most companies really don't want you to know about. So my original question, seems such a long time ago, was, do you love or hate EVs? There were 4, as I said at the beginning, I believe, let me know if you're not one of them. There were 4 types of people who are watching this video. There's the Tesla driver, the owner, the EV driver who doesn't own a Tesla, someone who's thinking about buying an EV, maybe a Tesla, and those people never going to buy one. They've got their diesel. Unless an EV can do 600 to 800 miles on a tank full, not interested. If you're thinking of buying an EV, I suggest you do. And you could go to a reputable dealer, buy a used one. You can get them through Tesla, used ones. And it will be the best thing you ever do if you get a Tesla. They're not cheap, even used, they're quite expensive, but you will save money in the long term. Always really trying to reach those people who are thinking about buying a Tesla or an EV. Because I know 2 years ago what it was like. I didn't really know. And of course, just talk to someone who's got one and you will get an insight. But it may be you don't know any. That's probably why you're watching YouTube videos, which is great. I'm sometimes tempted, I would like more views, that's true on this channel, but I'm not going to sell the soul. I'm just going to talk about my experience of owning a Tesla, what it's like, and if 100 people watch it, or 1,000, then that's great. And if I don't get the 10,000 views, so what? But thank you very much for getting this far. I hope you really can like and subscribe. Please leave a comment below. Drive safely, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Cheers.